As Charlie Kirk said, and as many others have said, this is no longer and has not been a fight between Republican and Democrat, between the left and the right, between conservatives and liberals. This is a fight between good and evil. This is a fight for the souls of men. And it's becoming more and more harmful to our souls and more divided and more prevalent of the distance between the good side and the evil side. Today I want to talk a little bit about the progression of life, how this life was created and why we're here, where we're going after this life. It is my full belief that certain people were called to fulfill specific missions while here on earth. That our Father, before they were born, went to them and said, there's going to come a point in time where I'm going to need you to do certain things, fulfill certain missions, and have certain sacrifices. Are you willing to accept that? Are you willing to accept that role that I'm going to need you to complete? And I'm sure a lot of men completely agreed and says, yes, wholeheartedly, I'm going to fulfill that role. I would love to be able to do that. We read about great prophets throughout the Bible, from Adam to Moses, Moses to Jesus, that fulfilled a lot of tremendous missions and completed their lifelong goals and what God had planned out for them. I believe our founding fathers were part of that group, that our Father in heaven went to them and said, I'm going to need you to create a country where there can be religious freedom, or else we're going to lose entire generations. It's going to be tough. It's going to be difficult. You're going to see a lot of death. But I need you to be strong, and I need you to put this thing together for me. Are you willing to accept that mission? It is my full belief that before this life, we all were spiritual children of our Father in heaven. We all progressed, learned, grew as much as a spiritual person could do before this existence. And it came a point in time where Father came to us, his children, and said, it is now time to take the next step. I am going to create a world like other worlds that I have created before this, and we're going to send you down there, and we're going to see what you can do. We're going to test you, try you, and you're going to not only show me what you can do, but you're more importantly going to prove to yourself what kind of person you're going to be and have become. Because I need you to see yourself as I see you. That way, when you come back after this life, you understand your role in the eternities. You understand why you're in the position you're in and why you had the responsibilities you had. And there's nothing like proving to ourselves and showing ourselves what kind of people we're going to be, what kind of a soul we're going to be. Within the Bible, we all know of the point in time right there in Genesis where our Father in heaven came to us and presented a plan and said, I'm going to create this world. We're going to send you down there. We're going to test and try you and see what happens. See how you progress, see how you learn, see how you take what you've learned in this pre-earth world, in this pre-earth existence, see what you can do with that knowledge and experience, that righteousness that you've obtained. Now, while you're down on this earth, you're not going to remember pre-earth existence and everything you've attained up here, but the levels you've obtained, the spiritual power you've obtained will go with you in your spiritual body, and you're going to be able to use that down on earth, even though you're not really going to recognize it while you're down there. He came forward and presented this plan and said part of this plan is you're going to be human. And to be human is to make mistakes, is to have sin. You're going to make choices and decisions that are going to separate you from me, which is okay, because that's part of the plan. That's part of learning. That's part of progress. I need you to go down there and make mistakes and learn from them. That is what we're trying to do here with this plan, is your growth. You showing yourself what you can and cannot do. But me being a perfect being, When you come back, you've got to be perfect. And because you're going to be human, you're not going to be able to obtain that perfection. You're not going to be able to come back on your own because of the choices that you're going to make. Because the whole point of this life is to have that freedom of choice, to choose between right and wrong, good and evil, virtue and vice. You have to make those decisions, because without that, there is no learning process, there is no growth. So knowing that, we need somebody who is perfect, that can stand before us and sacrifice himself for everybody, pay the price of sin, and bring you back to my family again. Two people presented themselves. One we know is Jesus, who said, I will go and do, and the glory be thine forever. And Lucifer, now that we know is Satan, who stood forth and said, send me, and I will make sure that they all come back. I will force them to do that. And you will not lose one person. Send me. We all know how that decision turned out. But what many don't understand is Satan or Lucifer's plan was a lie from the beginning. You cannot force will. You cannot force people to make choices. They will rebel. Even if their physical bodies are forced to do things, their minds are rebelling and hating you and resenting you and thinking all manner of evil thoughts about you, of what they would like to do. That's human nature. You cannot force thought, even though you may be able to force actions. And because of that, Satan's plan never would have worked. It would have been a complete and total loss. 100% fatality rate. 100%. The only thing he cared about was he wanted power, glory, and to take over his father's throne. And we see that nowadays. People who want power and glory and just to have control over everything. So obviously, our Father in heaven sent his first Son, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, who came down here in the meridian of time, died upon the cross, that we might be redeemed and return to our Father in heaven again. Every Christian out there knows that plan. Even the Jewish people know that that was the plan. And they may not believe that their Messiah has come yet, but their base knowledge is the same plan that the rest of us Christians know and understand. That's why this is a Judeo-Christian country, because we have the same foundation. And it doesn't matter what your Christian belief are, what sect you are, whether you're Lutheran or Protestant or evangelical or Mormon, the foundation is all the same. Everybody knows and understands those simple principles of Christ's gospel. That's what should be bringing us together. That's what should be uniting us, is that those simple base principles. We should be looking past the minutia between the different sects of how baptism is done or how ordinances are done or the exact differences between faith and works. We need to look past those idiosyncrasies and understand that we all have the same foundation. Part of that, in that pre-earth world, I think our Father in heaven had enough foresight, enough knowledge to be able to see and understand the future. And he knew that there's going to be certain points in time where he was going to need a lot of help and a lot of assistance. People that he was going to need to be there to fulfill certain missions. Looking at our day and age, we understand that it is now a much bigger fight than just simply between Republican and Democrat, between liberal and conservative. This is a fight for the souls of men. This is a fight between good and evil. Where right now in our day and age, evil has been winning. Society's morals, ethics, and values has been deteriorating for generations on how we accept the LGBTQ community, on how we accept pornography everywhere, on how we justify a little evil here and there, a little theft here and there, lying. Everything has become more and more acceptable throughout society. And it honestly came to a point where most of us are seeing that we were deterring fast enough that we literally thought that Christ has got to be around the corner, because how can it get much worse than this? Before this life, Christ went to a few individuals and said, it's going to be gloomy. It's going to get bad. There's going to be a lot of evil, but I'm going to need your help to buy myself a few more years. I need to jumpstart society and put faith back into society. I need to create hope. I need to create a new focus on what is real. That focus needs to go back to Jesus Christ. That focus needs to go back to faith. It needs to go back to religion, to where we can have faith with each other. We can have faith in the institutions that God has created for us. And I fully think that our founding fathers and the Constitution are institutions that God specifically put forward and used those men to create. That we could have the freedoms that we have nowadays and be the beacon for the rest of the world. But with everything good, there's always going to be deterioration, because men are going to be influenced by the other side. Men are going to be influenced by evil. I think Charlie Kirk was one of those men. I think Erika was as well. I think God came to them and said, we're going to get the two of you together as husband and wife. Charlie, I'm going to need you to spread a message. I'm going to need you to do it quickly, early in life. I need you to create a following, but this is going to be the hard part. You're not going to be able to have the impact that I need you to have. You're not going to be able to jumpstart society. You're not going to be able to create a wave of influence without being a martyr. I'm going to take you back early in your life, and I'm going to use your sacrifice to jumpstart the world and buy myself a few more years before I have to say, no, you're all done. Christ is coming. Game over. Are you willing to accept that plan to help me jumpstart society again? Help refocus people all over the world back on me. And I know wholeheartedly that he said, yes, I'll accept that mission. You look at his power and his strength and what he said, and it was simple. It wasn't complicated. The gospel isn't. The plan isn't. It's simple. Just get up there and talk the truth. But he did it in a way where nobody could deny what he was saying, even though they are right now. He did it in a way where it was easy to understand, easy to influence. But the power came with the martyrdom, where all of a sudden it shocked the system, shocked everybody. And instead of the few million followers that he had before pre-death, the whole world is now seeing him and seeing God and Jesus Christ all over again. People are looking at the Bible again. People are looking at their faith again. People are attending church again, all over the world. He shocked the system and is refocusing millions more than he ever could have reached in life. God then turned to his wife and said, this is going to be the hardest thing you'll ever do, because you're going to lose him. I'm going to take him back. But I need you to pick up that stick and run with it. You're going to have more strength than you think you have now to continue this vision. And they're not the only ones. We're not saying that he was a prophet. He was some Old Testament prophet. But there's him and many more like him that are throughout the world that are fulfilling missions all the time. All the time. That people that have the hearts, that can gain the hearts and minds of an audience and push them towards good. I know many pastors that travel the world and do tremendous good throughout Africa, throughout Asia, in the sacrifice and service that they do. I know many that are just in small neighborhoods and communities that affect the lives of the youth, the kids, the children in ways that is immeasurable. Every single one of these people have been called up and chosen before life and said, I need you to fulfill certain missions. I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And as we've said many times, we keep this very, very non-denominational, because we think that all Christian faith has that base in the gospel of Jesus Christ. But even I believe that Joseph Smith was one of those people that jump-started life, that jump-started this society that they lived in, and refocused people in on the truth. Because even in his day and age, back in the early 1800s, when this country had just started, I mean, Joseph Smith was born in 1805. He was 30 years only after the start of this country, where we had a new world and everybody had this religious fever because all of a sudden we had this religious freedom and everybody was talking about God and Jesus Christ then. But evil slipped in and people started focusing more on how to make money as a preacher versus actually how to preach and teach the true principles. And with his death, I think there's a lot within the community that kind of refocused on principles, however that affected him. And it wasn't just those of the Mormon faith that were affected. There was a lot affected. Just like Charlie Kirk's death, it's more than just any one Christian religion that was affected, and they've all been affected. Everybody's focusing back on Christ. And I think certain people come and go that were called to do that. Whether you believe in that sect or not, that is not the point of this conversation. Whether you believe in the Mormon faith, the Christian or the Catholic faith or the evangelical faith, it all has that same base. We all know what Christ did for us. There are many out there that may or may not believe what I'm saying. But whether you believe it completely or partially, you know there's truth there. You know there's a base that you understand it is right, is true. We look at Charlie Kirk's life, and we understand that, yes, there was a specific mission that he did fulfill. You cannot deny that. Now that faith has been jump-started again, it is now an individual decision as to what you're going to do with that. Charlie's message was honorable. It was powerful. Erika's message is honorable and powerful. The fact that she forgave the individual that shot Charlie just goes to show her strength and her belief in her Father in heaven and in the power of Jesus Christ. Are we going to take those examples and learn from them? What are we going to do with that? Because it is now an individual decision. What are you going to do? What is your relationship going to be with your Savior, with your Father in heaven? It's not a matter of deifying Charlie Kirk or worshiping him. It's a matter of recognizing the mission he fulfilled in jump-starting culture, in jump-starting the world, and renewing our focus, our vision. Because it was dark and gloomy, and all of a sudden everybody just woke up and said, what are we doing? Where are we going? Why is our path so far astray? How do we gear it back to that straighter path that Christ taught us? How are you going to change your life? You just have to ask yourself, what are you going to do on the daily that's really going to change your entire life, that's going to change your perspective, that's going to change your goals, that's going to change your focus, it's going to change your vision? You have to have an honest conversation with yourself and ask yourself, what am I going to do on a daily basis that is going to change my perspective and my complete focus on life? I think a lot of us had a over-focus maybe on work. Maybe we thought that was good for our families, but then we all of a sudden realized that the money that we make at work is just a means to an end. That end is our families. That end is a more eternal perspective on life. That should not be an all-encompassing part of our life where we neglect everything else. Same thing when we go out and we play. Vacations, whatever it is we're doing, sports. That should not be the entire focus of life. It is good to get out and unwind and decompress. But when it becomes the entire focus of our life and we lose the priorities, again, family, our kids, God. We start replacing things that we should not replace. The deception nowadays, and I think many people don't recognize it as much as they should, is when Lucifer or Satan tempts you and puts sins in front of you. They're not blatant. It's a whole bunch of good mixed with evil. Because if it wasn't, you wouldn't follow it. Most people will not do anything that's just blatantly wrong. They're going to rationalize, they're going to say it's okay, and they're going to make good look evil and evil look good, like we've said in several of these videos. It's that mix, it's that deception that he is so good at, distorting our focus, distorting our view on what's good and evil. Us as conservatives, we're not violent, we're not pushy, we're not in your face. The left has always been like that, and the more we recognize them for being the evil that they are, the more we're starting to push back. But the more we push back, the more they recognize that they don't have the influence over the right that they used to have. The more they recognize that they can't guilt us into accepting them as they are, and then moving from acceptance to participation. The left has always been more in your face and pushing their evil values, that mix between good and evil, so it sounds acceptable, which is exactly how Satan puts things in front of us. The left has always wanted to groom us in their direction. And because we're so loving and accepting, then we've just kind of let them do whatever it is that they wanted to do, that live or let live type mentality. But the left does not have a live or let live mentality. They want to start off with that, but then they want to push you into not only accepting their way of life, but into participating with their way of life, and then forcing us to live the way that they live. And there's a huge comparison between what the left is doing right now and what Muslims and Sharia law are trying to do, because it's the same thing. They try to move into your society and say, hey, we're just trying to make a living. We're just trying to exist. You just need to accept us how we are. And then all of a sudden we are guilted into being Islamophobic, to where we just, okay, then we'll just accept you and you guys can live your religion however you want to live your religion, which is what we as conservatives want. I mean, we just want to live and let live. Let everybody have the freedom of choice. But they don't stop with that. Once you accept them in, now it's, okay, now you got to become part of what we do. Now you got to accept our laws, our rules. And then you got to participate in them. You need to participate with us. And then the final ultimatum is you convert, you become a slave, or you die. That's the extreme perspective, and not many people recognize that that is where it is going. It's the same thing on the left. You have to accept all of our LGBTQ principles. You have to accept pornography into society. You have to accept that there are younger, attracted people. Pedophilia is not as evil as it's laid out to be. You have to accept that there are minorities that can't help themselves but to go and steal and rob because they've been pushed down their entire lives. It's where everything they do, they try to twist it into making good evil and evil good. And that's how Satan deceives. He doesn't come out and put stuff blatantly in your face and say, go kill this person. He gradually leads you down a path that shows you that this whole society is wrong on how they're deciding to live their life, that Christianity is evil, that Christianity is judgmental, that Christianity is oppressive. And they label them homophobic, Islamophobic, fascist, dictators, Nazis. And that label gets so well impressed that all of a sudden killing them is not necessarily evil. It's wrong, but it's for a better good. And then it progresses farther and farther until we commit genocide on the other side, which is exactly what happened to the Jews during World War II. It's that slow path, that slow progression that Satan always puts out there. And we've got to start recognizing it for what it is and standing up for right and stop bending. And that is the shock to the system that I think Charlie Kirk fulfilled, where we were bending so far that the good side was breaking. And our Father in heaven said, I've got to shock the system. I've got to stop this. We've got to straighten everybody back out. We got to wake them up. We got to get the majority to open their eyes and understand and see what is going on. Stop being so accepting of everything that's going on the evil side. Stop thinking that the other side is just going to live and let live, because that is not their goal. That is never going to happen again. Bring back those morals and values into your homes, into your families, and start living them. Because without that, we're going to lose our freedoms. We're going to lose our country. We're going to lose society. It's not just about religion anymore. It's not about just the different faiths and sects that are out there anymore. If we don't band together, we will lose entire nations. The United States will fall, and with it, other countries will start falling. This is the final battle. It's the battle for hearts and minds. It's the battle between good versus evil. It is no longer, like I said, between Republican and Democrat. It's no longer between conservative and liberal, between woke ideologies and Christian values. Let Charlie Kirk's sacrifice be that shock to your system that you may need so that you can refocus on what the priorities of life are. Christ is the priority. Faith is the priority. Your family, your children, those are the priorities. Work is not the priority. Play and recreation is not the priority. Money is not the priority. Your faith and family is the priority. Let that shock to the system enter deep into your heart, and you decide here and now, what am I going to do on a daily basis to reconcile my life and bring my life back to the true path? However you feel like that is the best way to do it for you and your family. And like Erika Kirk said, find a church and start going. Open up the Bible and start reading. Find that faith. Recognize Jesus Christ for who he is in your life and bring him into your life. Only through that will the true values of society grow again. Because with that, the economy grows, because we have good work ethic. The crime goes down. Mental illnesses go down. Everything gets affected of that. It's not one-dimensional. Everything you think is political is also spiritual, which is why we're God and country, because we're trying to mix that faith and politics together and help people understand that it's all the same. It's all the same goal. We have to have the same things in mind, or else both fail. You can't separate them. And everybody's going to start screaming in my comment section that you have to separate government and religion. That is not true. There has never been a separation of church and state. There's only been a freedom of religion, not a freedom from religion. It's a freedom to practice your faith in God, your faith however you want to, but holding on to those base foundational values that made us a society in the first place. It's government not sponsoring a specific sect, but government pushing values, eternal principles that we know are right. It's government pushing back on the moral degradation of society. And us as citizens of this country using our faith to help. Because you cannot have a government, you cannot have a country, you cannot have families if you don't have a base to grow on. And that foundation is the gospel of Jesus Christ. It is what Charlie Kirk professed in every single one of his talks, every single one of his speeches. That was the shock to the system that we needed at this time in existence, this time in history. Now we just need to do something with it. We as individuals need to make that individual choice, that one-on-one choice with ourselves, nobody else, no audience, and say, I'm going to choose to return to my Father in heaven. I'm going to choose between good and evil every single day. There's power in that message. There is strength in that message, and we need to find it. because this country is deteriorating and is deteriorating quickly. There is a massive divide between the right and left. And if we don't stand up, it's going to consume everything and destroy us completely. Recognize evil for what it is and choose the good. Appreciate everybody being on board today. Look forward to our upcoming videos. Again, like, subscribe, share. We need to get the listening hours. Please listen to our full podcast, our full shows. There's a lot of information in them. We have Dr. Kirk Moore coming on this Sunday that should be out. Watch his full podcast, and we will see you on the next show.